So I have been speaking. I don't know if I was here last week. If I wasn't here last week.
No.
Because you didn't. Because last week I was in crutches. Last week was like Bowman, right? Okay. So I wouldn't have been able to be here anyway. So we have been speaking about the two vayars by Avraham Avinu, the two looks, and I spoke a lot about Rus. Mitzvah next week, Wednesday night, will be a shir right before Shavuos. I do want to talk a little bit about David HaMelech tonight, which is very important. But before I speak about David HaMelech, I want to talk about the Vayar. No. This is not the right parak. Okay, got it. Good, beautiful. We're going to learn something very interesting tonight in Navi. Before we get to that, I want to talk about something really important, and it has a little bit to do with my knee, actually. So, Chesed Shebechesed is the first day of Sfira, and the last is Malchus Shebemalchus, and we learn Chesed Shebechesed from Avraham Avinu. I want to talk a little bit about the second pasuk in Parashat Vayera, which I've spoken about many, many times. It says the following: Vayisa Einav. Avraham Avinu lifted up his eyes, Vayar, and he saw. Right? V'hinei shloisha anashim nitzavim alav. There were three men standing on him, right in front of him. Right? So he lifted up his eyes and he sees these three men. We know they were the malachim that Hashem sent because he wanted to do chesed. Right? Then the pasuk says again, Vayar. He saw. He already saw. It said once he saw. And now it says, Vayaratz l'krasam. He ran to meet them. You just said that he saw, and three men were standing on him, alav, right in front of him. Now you say he saw, and he ran to meet them. Make up your mind. Were they in front of him? Or were they far away that he had to run to meet them? In the same pasuk it says he looked, he saw, they were standing in front of him. He looked, and he ran to meet them. Either they're in front of him, or they're not in front of him. How could it be in the same pasuk that they looked, and they're in front of him, and then he's running? If he's running and they're in front of him, he's going to run him over. So that doesn't make any sense at all. And why did he have to look twice? Vayar, he saw. And what's the Vayisa Einov? He lifted up his eyes. It doesn't say every time in the Torah when somebody saw something, right? So Vayisa Einov. What's this Vayisa Einov? So I want to tell you what Vayisa Einov means. And it has a lot to do with tonight's shir. So I was decided to try to get healthy, and to lose a lot of weight. So I started going on a treadmill about 8 months ago. And of course, being my age, you don't run on a treadmill, you walk on a treadmill. So I was very satisfied walking at 4 miles an hour on this treadmill, and it was a good workout for going an hour every morning. But of course, you start to feel a little bit younger, and it's like, let's do 4.5, and then let's do 4.9, and then you have one level of grade, 1, and then you bring it up to 4 and 5. Anyway, so I decided a few weeks ago, being that my daughter's engaged, and Mitzvah Shem, she's going to be getting married, so I got to be really in good shape. I got to be able to dance and run and jump. I don't know where I put this paper. So I started pushing and got it all the way up to 7. 7 an hour is about a 7.5 minute mile. That's moving. That's moseying. And I wasn't happy with running 7 on 0. I had to run 7 on 6. So like running that fast up a hill. It was great. I'm like young again. I'm going to be so ready for this wedding. And then about 55 minutes into this exercise, all of a sudden I felt something in my knee go, bing! And things in your knee are not supposed to go, bing! Not good. So it really hurt, and I stopped the treadmill, and I said, uh-oh, something's wrong. And I could not even make it down the steps. And I realized that I did something to my knee, but I had ripped my knee cartilage and ligaments when I was 16 years old, and had a major operation. And in those days, they didn't do arthroscopic operations. They were 3 little holes. They cut you open like a sardine can. And I had this huge operation. And it just wasn't the same pain and the same feeling that I had when that happened. So I was like, what happened on this treadmill? I didn't fall. My knee didn't twist. There was just like this bing in my knee. So I didn't know what it was. So I went to the hospital. and I took an MRI. And they did an MRI and an X-ray to see what's wrong with my knee. So that was really good. And the MRI, I thought I had it here with me. I did have it. I don't know where I put it. The MRI was not a good report. I'd like to read you my MRI. There's a reason I'm doing this. I don't want Rachmanis. That's not why I'm reading it. So the doctor comes out with the MRI, and it's not like a pretty picture like you'll be running tomorrow. He says, okay, and it's printed out. Radiology, left knee, findings. High grade, partial, almost complete ACL rupture. Now your ACL is the main ligament in your knee. No good if it ruptures. Really no good, right? So I'm like, that's out for 6 months. That's not good. Because the summer is the time we play baseball, and I'm in a baseball league. So like, I was very upset. Tear of the posterior horn of the lateral meniscus. Meniscus, in the layman's term, is your cartilage. So I also ripped my posterior, the cartilage in the back of my knee, and the apposterior horn of the lateral meniscus of the anterior root ligament. For all of us who didn't take biology, that's the other side of your knee. So I ripped the cartilage in both sides of my knee, plus the most important thing is I ruptured my ACL ligament. And if that's not enough, the report says mild sprain, grade 1, of the MCL, which is the other ligament I translated as main center ligament. So I'm like, my ACL is gone, my MCL is gone, I need to borrow somebody's knee. This is not good. Bone contusion of the medial proximal tibia. If anyone knows where the tibia is, it's like your main bone below your knee. It's like a really big, thick bone. It is very not good to have a contusion of that bone, right? Injury to the femoral whatever. Mild soft tissue edema of the anterior. I'm like, I don't want to read this anymore. I mean, like, I'm in big trouble. This is a very bad report. Okay, well, what do you do? What do you do? So, the next morning, I got to go to the doctor. So I go to this really good doctor in Queens, and really nice guy, really good doctor. And we call him up in the morning. I'm like, this is an emergency. And well, did you take an X-ray? Did you take an MRI? Yup. Got it done on Sunday. Okay, bring the report and bring the X-ray. I'm like, you want the MRI? I have a copy of the MRI. He goes, no, what do I need the MRI for? The radiologist read it in the hospital. You have a report? I just need to read the report. I don't need to see the MRI. You have a report? I'm like, yep, I have a report. He says, okay, come with the report. Okay, I come to the doctor, and I sit down. He goes, it's very interesting. Your knee's not really that swollen. Because when you rip a ligament or cartilage, your knee swells up really bad. He says, okay, let me see the report. He looks at the report. He says, your ACL is ruptured, your HCL is ruptured, your cartilage is ripped. We got to operate. How can you fix this without operating? But it's a little different than when you did it when you were a kid. Today we make 3 little holes. We go in those little holes. It takes 25 minutes. We fix it up. You do some rehab for about 4 to 6 weeks, and you'll be back on your feet. I'm like, just get me out of this pain. You want to do surgery? Let's do it now. Right? He says, no, you got to take post-operative, and you got to take blood tests, and you got to take EKGs, and okay, but we're going to get you in the first. I'm operating next Tuesday. I have 9 operations. That sounds good. Please do me first. Like by the 9th one, it's like, which knee? Which knee? I'm like, I'd like to get in first. We have friends. So I'm very excited because I just want to get out of my pain. I want to get better. Okay. So I go home. I know what this all means, and I know that it's a very long time, even though they tell you a week. You're not playing ball for at least 6 months. So I'm not happy about that, but I just want to get out of my pain. Okay. So I'm talking to one of my friends, and he says, Zecharia, I know this guy's a great doctor and everything, but you should get a second opinion. I'm like, what second opinion? I have a report. The report from the MRI is very clear. What's the second opinion? Like, what's the guy going to tell me? You don't have an ACL rupture? There's an ACL rupture. It's a radiologist that read it. What's this guy going to do for me? He says, listen, before you go under the knife, before you go into surgery, get a second opinion. Okay, so my wife is connected. She got me to go to a doctor in Manhattan, Lenox Hill, the #1 man. He does the New York Giants, the New York Jets. He does the ski team, the USA soccer team. I'm like, hey, that's the guy I should be going to, right? Because I'm a big athlete, big rabbi, big athlete. They have pictures of all the New York Giants and Jets and football players. Marriott, you know, what's his name? The big picture for... So they'll have a picture of Rabbi Wallerstein on the wall. Right? So I'm all excited. So I go up to this office. It's in Lenox Hill in the hospital. And I come in and I call before to make the appointment. And he has like an assistant and she says, did you take an MRI? I'm like, yes. She says, bring the MRI. I said, you want the report? She goes, no, bring the MRI. I'm like, but I have a report already. She goes, I heard you, bring the MRI and bring the x-ray. Okay. So I bring the MRI. I bring this concept paper with all these fancy words. He ripped this, he ripped that, he ripped this, he ripped that, right? And I come into the office, and you got all these ball players in the office. One guy's 7'2", other guy's 7'2" this way. You got football players, tennis players. I'm like, hi, everyone. You know, I'm like the little guy, you know? All these big guys. And I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I mean, he's the head man in Lenox Hill. So I finally get to see him. I go into the office. He tells me to lay down on the table. He looks at my knee. He says, I said, I have a report. He says, really? Let me see the report. He looks at the report. He says, your knee's not swollen. I'm like, yeah, but it says here, he says, let me see the MRI. He takes the MRI. He goes out for about 10 minutes. Comes back in. He says, you didn't rupture your ACL. That happened when you were 16. Everything that they saw in this MRI, that happened when you were 16. It's 30 years later. You've been doing very well with what you have in your knee. The cartilage that they're looking at, when they operated, they took out most of your cartilage. So when you look at it on an MRI, it looks like it's all ripped. It's not ripped. They took that out when you were 16. He says, you know why your leg's not swollen? Because all this stuff on the MRI, that happened a long time ago. You're fine. He says, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Let me show you. And he takes the MRI and he puts it on the light board. He says, you see this little teeny thing? He says, you have a stress fracture. Your bone cracked while you were running. Did you stretch before you ran in the morning? I'm like, I'm a Jew. We don't have time. We don't stretch before we exercise. Never heard of such a thing. I'm like, no. He says, you did a 25-minute, 30-minute warm-up? I'm like, 30-minute warm-up? I'm a Jewish guy. After 30 minutes warm-up, it's over. I'm not going on a treadmill. That's enough exercise. Like, no. He said, you ran 7 without stretching and without a warm-up? You are lucky you have anything left. So he says, it's a stress fracture. At your age, running that fast up a hill for that long, over a week or two, your bone can't take the stress, and it cracked. He says, and honestly, it's a God thing, because it's going to heal itself. Because I can't do anything. You don't operate on, it's not the bone is cracked this way, it's cracked alongside the bone. Sort of a crack in the bone. There's nothing they can do, it just has to be off it, like me now, right? Don't step on it, he said. I'm going to put you in this big long thing that you don't step on at all, which of course I took off when I got home, because how can I be in such a thing? I have to run around. He says, and you rest it, and it takes about 4 weeks, and you take calcium and a couple of other vitamins and a vitamin D, and you'll be fine 4 to 5 weeks. I said, no surgery? He says, let me tell you something. Any doctor would open up your knee, he would have put your ligament, maybe fixed a little bit, but you can't fix a stress fracture. They would have closed you up, you would have gone home, and you would have been in the exact same pain as you are now. Because you don't need any surgery. Godless. Godless. That he was able to, instead of reading somebody else's report, he said, I need to see your knee. It's not swollen. That report is about stuff that happened. That radiologist didn't interview you and you told him you had surgery when you were 16. So he's looking at a knee that he thinks whatever he's looking at just happened. He said, he didn't talk to you. You got to talk to the patient. You got to look at the MRI. That's why he's a top doctor. Wallerstein. What's the difference between him and the first guy I went to? The first guy I went to only had one vayar. He looked at the report that somebody else wrote. The second doctor I went to was vayar a second time. In other words, I know that someone looked at it, but I need to look at it. Now, why am I telling you this? That was the godless of Avram Avinu. The first vayar is v'hinei nitzav olav. You look at somebody, you see this person standing in front of you. The second vayar when you look a little deeper into who that person is, then vayaratz l'krasam. When you look at him the second time, then you're able to run, to meet them, to greet them, to connect to them, to have a relationship. It's the second look that counts. This doctor understood that somebody else looked at his knee. That's not enough to make a diagnosis. I have to take a second look at this knee and a closer look at the MRI itself. And he found the stress fracture. And anything that's in the physical world, that's why I'm telling you the story of my knee, is in the spiritual world, the same thing. At the first time you see somebody misbehaving, you see a kid on the street smoking on Shabbos, not dressed correctly, doing something very wrong. So the first look is, oh my God, look at that kid. That kid was in my daughter's class. And now she's smoking on Shabbos. What a lowlife. I better keep my kid away from her. That's first look. Second look is, oh my God, her daughter, she was in my daughter's class. Why is she smoking on Shabbos? What's her struggle? She must have gone through some trauma. My daughter's not smoking on Shabbos. And walk over to her and say, hey, Miriam, you were in my daughter's class. What's going on? I want to help you. Come over for Shabbos. Let's talk. That's the second vayar. Then vayaratz l'krasam. Then you'll be willing to run to meet them. So the morning after that MRI, I went to Shachris, to daven Shachris. I was in crazy pain. I'm on my crutches. And I went to daven Shachris in Landau's. Now I had this problem. And the problem I had was, I got two crutches, and I got this talus bag that has Rabbeinu Tam's, Rashi's, a Mishnayos, a Shulchan Aruch that I learned with it, right? It weighs about 35 pounds. It's in this big plastic bag. My hands are on the crutches. How do I get the talus and tefillin into shul? There's only one way. Put it in my mouth. So it's in a big plastic with a zipper. So I take the whole talus and I put it in my mouth and I'm on my crutches. Can you imagine? I'm a block away from Landau's and I don't really know how to use my crutches yet because it's like the first day, right? So, and I'm in a lot of pain and I'm like moving with these crutches and I have this tefillin swinging in my mouth. My teeth are clenched, right? And I'm like, gotta make it to the shul, right? And then I'm thinking to myself, you are going to drop the tefillin because how long can you hold them in your teeth? And then you're going to trip over them. And Wallerstein is going to be laying on the sidewalk with his crutches flying, his tefillin flying, laying there, and everyone's going to be like, oh my God, can we help you up? And then probably I'm going to have to get an MRI of my knee and my back and my neck and everything else I broke. So Baruch Hashem, true story. This guy walks out of Landau's and he's walking towards me and I'm like, he's going to take the tefillin out of my mouth and carry it in and help me into shul. Walks right by me. He's on his phone. He's out of shul. He's on his phone. Walks right by me. I'm like, I'm shaking it back and forth. Maybe I'll catch him, you know? Nothing. Keeps walking. Okay. I take another 4 steps. I'm like, I am not going to make it. And another guy walks out of shul. And I know who he is. I'm like, yes, but I can't talk because my tefillin's in my mouth. So I can't talk, but he's like, he's not just going to walk right past me. This guy I know. So he's definitely going to stop. Rabbi Wallerstein, let me carry your tefillin. You know, let me get a chair. Let me carry you. I don't know, something, right? Nothing. Walks right by me. He's texting already. Doesn't even see me. And then when I'm about to give up on the human race, because this is, don't forget, this is after davening. You just finished davening to Hashem, right? And now this guy is suffering, trying to make it on, hobbling on these sticks, we call them stecken, on these 2 sticks, with his tefillin swinging in his mouth. Like, hello? Right? Why did you daven? And all of a sudden from behind me, a guy taps me on the shoulder. I'm like, I'm not turning around, that's for sure. He says, oh my gosh, let me help you. And he takes the tefillin out of my mouth. And I'm like, thank you. And I hobble into shul. And he takes the tefillin and he puts it down in front of me. He says, you want me to take out your tefillin for you? I'm like, no, I put like this, I put it next to me. He says, you know, you're not going to be able to do this every day. I said, I know, I don't know what I'm going to do. He says, I'll tell you, it's no problem. I have one of these bags, these new bags that they sell, that you take your tefillin bag, you put it in the bag, it's like a big pocketbook, a big like knapsack, you put over your shoulder, and that's how you carry your tefillin. Now it happens to be Hashem is amazing, because my daughter got engaged, and my son-in-law, my wife was in his farm store, and she was buying him, you have to buy the chassan, the talus bag with his name, and the talus, and the plastic that you put the talus bag in. And she said, my wife called me, the guy in the store said that today, they also buy an extra bag that you put the whole thing in, that you zip up, and like you can carry over your shoulder. I'm like, no way, you're not buying that for him. And she's like, why? I'm like, it's the biggest disgrace for tefillin. To put it over your shoulder, like it's a backpack? I'm like, tefillin have to be cradled in your hand. You don't hold them like this. You don't wear them. You hold your tefillin when you walk. I said, absolutely not. Hashem's like, yeah, we'll see. So I passed that on my own, which I guess was wrong. So I judged everybody else. I only had that one look. So this guy says to me, listen, you're not going to be able to do this every day. I have this thing that I wear over my shoulder. He takes his tefillin out of his bag, and he puts my tefillin, and he says, my name's inside. When you're able to walk and you don't need it anymore, just call me. Beautiful black thing that says talus on it. He says, just call me. So my friend, he walked right by me. The first guy walked right by me. This guy didn't even know who I was. And he's giving me his talus, his bag. If I'm going to ever call him, I might keep it and never give it to him. He trusted me. He carried my talus bag in. He even offered, he says, if you come to this meeting every day, I'll come carry it for you. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm not that much of an invalid. And so what's the difference? Manashtana, and the answer is, the other two, there was no Vayisa Enov. If you don't lift up your eyes from your silly phone and all the stupidity that's surrounding you, then you're not going to see. There's no question in my mind that those two guys, if they would have seen me struggling like that, they would have helped me. They're nice guys. One of them is a good friend of mine. He's a nice guy. He never saw me. He walked right by me. I could have been bleeding to death. They would have just kept going. Because he was looking at his text. He was getting a text. Hi, bring me home a dozen eggs, So Wallerstein's hobbling, about to fall on his face. Make sure you get me a dozen eggs. He's looking at... So the pasuk's telling us over here that the first thing, if you want to see, to help people, the first thing has to be, Vayisa Einav. Get your eyes out of all your stuff. Because if your eyes are in your stuff, then you can't see anybody else's stuff. That was a harsh lesson. But I also learned about the double vayar. What makes this doctor a good doctor is he didn't take anyone's word for it. Just because someone said this kid is no good, just because some teacher said this kid is stupid, this kid doesn't understand. The difference between a good person in chinuch and not a good person is I don't take any reports. When a kid comes to my school, I don't read anything about them. I say, I want to meet them. I want to see them. When a parent calls me and says, my kid's totally this, I'm like, stop. That's your impression of your kid. If you're going to tell me your impression, then when I meet her, before I meet her, I already have this idea of who she is. But it's your idea. I don't want to hear nothing about her. I want to meet her. I'll come up with my own idea. Because once you give me the MRI report, then I'm not going to look at it. But if I don't know who she is, and I'm the one who's interviewing her, then I'll get to know her. Your perception is your reality. Her perception is her reality. My perception is my reality. I need to meet her. I don't want to hear the whole report. I get this in my high school all the time, where we get these kids and they're like, well, you want us to send you a report from our school that we just threw her out? Should we send you the last 3 years? And I'm like, no. Because you took one look. I'm taking a different look. And in Megillas Rus, it's very specific that Rus said to Boaz, Ki nichamtani, you consoled me. How did he console her? She was a Moavi. She was a Vanoichi Nachriya. She said, I'm a lowlife, I'm a guy. The Jews didn't accept her. This is the great-grandmother of David HaMelech. They wanted to throw over the fence. Because the first look, the Nar that looked at her said, she's a lowlife. She's a Moaviyah. Boaz said, who is she? And the reason Boaz said, who is she, is because she was a tznuah. She curtsied instead of bending over. So instead of this guy saying, she's a Moaviyah, but Boaz, you should know, she's a little different. She's very modest. Nah. He only had one look. He said, she's a Moaviyah who came from Moab. Ugh. Well, Boaz right away called her Biti. Vayoma Boaz el Rus, Biti, my daughter. The Gadol Hadar is calling a Moaviyah his daughter. So she asked him, why? Why are you giving me recognition? Why are you being nice to me? I'm a guy. There's a machlokes if a Moaviyah can become a ger or not. She said, Rabbi, why are you talking to me? How many times in my life I've been asked that question by girls? Like, what's the deal? What do you got up your sleeve? Why are you taking me to your school and I'm not even paying tuition? Why are you sending me to the, what do you care about me for? I'm not your daughter. What's the deal? You're going to bill my insurance? Like, there's got to be a twist here or something. There's got to be a reason. Why'd you open up Ornava? I remember when I opened up Ornava, so we were going to charge to come to Ornava, membership, something. It has to be free. Everybody was telling me if you give someone something for free, they don't appreciate it. So if you charge even $5 every time girls come, they'll appreciate what they're doing. And I'm like, listen to me. If I'm going to charge, what are the people going to say? Sure, you know why Wallerstein opened up Ornava? So they could charge $5, so they can make money. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to let anybody say that. So I had parents that came to me and said, you are letting our girls come for free? We know it's a setup. You want them to get to like it, and then you're going to charge. And I said, how could you say that? And they said, nobody in this world does something good for no reason. Wallerstein, you got a plan. That was her question. She asked Boaz, look in Rush, she said, why? Why are you even talking to me? You're the Gadol Hadar. And his answer was amazing. His answer was, you know why I'm talking to you? Because you're a Moaviyah. The Nar, who he asked, who is she, was negative. She's a Moaviyah. The Moavim were lowlifes. They were immoral. Boaz, what are you even looking at her? What are you even talking to her? She's a bleh. Boaz said, the reason I'm being nice to you is the same reason. Because you're a Moaviyah. So she looked at him. Oh, another person judging me. He said, no. He said, you're a Moaviyah, and you were willing to give up Beis Avicha, that you were a princess, and Moladecha, the place you were born, you're an Avram Avinu. All the pain, you came to a nation that you don't know. I see that you're a Moaviyah, therefore, to become a Jew, people are cursing you, people are calling you names. I am looking at your pain. They both had the same look. He came back and said she's a Moaviyah. He came back and said she's a Moaviyah. But the first guy said, ugh, she's a Moaviyah. That's the Vayar, the one Vayar. The Hine Nitzav Olav. If you only look once, you just see what's there. You see the outside, the Chitzonius. So he just saw Moaviyah. Boaz was different. Boaz said, that's right, I also see you're a Moaviyah. But on the second look, I see, oh my God, she's a Moaviyah, and she's willing to become a Jew. She's willing to give up her friends, and her movies, and her DVDs, and her Facebook, and I had to get Facebook in at least once, right? And all this stuff. She's willing to give all this stuff up to become a Jew? Oh my goodness, she's bigger than a Jew. She's a Moaviyah, wants to be a Jew. Of course. So what does she say to him? Nicham Tani. Rabbi, you consoled me. That means she was in a lot of pain. If you gave her nechama, it means she was in a lot of pain. What was her pain? She didn't belong. She felt like that kid in the street. Everyone's looking at me and talking behind my back. And then she says the big words. How will you console me? V'chidibarta alev shevchasecha. Because you spoke to my heart. You can never, on the first look, see somebody's heart. That takes a second look. The first look just tells you the outside of what the person is. V'chidibarti alei alibi. She said, you spoke to my heart. How does one get to speak to someone's heart? Dvarim hayotzim min halev. If a person speaks from his heart, nichnosim el halev, then those words go into the other person's heart. So what she was saying to Boaz was, you spoke to my heart. If you spoke to my heart, that means you spoke from your heart. The greatest nechama when you're dealing with people, whether it's a husband, wife, father, child, a teacher, student, is when you talk from your heart. The person knows when you're talking from your heart. And that's what she said to him. Second look. You didn't take the report from the guy who read the MRI. You read the MRI yourself. And if you do that, it can actually save you a big operation that wouldn't have helped you anyway. Godless. Boaz's second look was godless. And that's what created Mashiach. What created David HaMelech. Because had he not taken that second look, she would have been a Moaviyah. He wouldn't have married her. There would have been no Oved, no Yishai, no David. And that's what we have to, that's what we learn from Megillas Rus. That every single person, every single Jew has to have the ability to take that second look. Let me tell you, I can tell you more than anybody else, that there are so many people out there that don't have that ability. They make a judgment call, and they don't go deeper. If you don't go deeper, you're going to make the biggest mistakes in your life. Kid comes home with a 50. So the first look is, because us beautiful teachers, what do we write when a kid gets a 50, even if she's in 10th grade? Or a kid gets a 40, we plaster on that piece of paper. Failing! In red, with a big circle. Hello, I'm in 11th grade. I figured out that 40 is failing. You really don't need to write that on my paper. I'm also in 11th grade. You don't have to make a line with an X and write parent's signature. My parents can find on the paper where to sign. So the first look when the kid comes home with a 50 is, oh my God, you got a 50? Your father's going to have a heart attack. Your sister's never going to get a shidduch. The family name is ruined. Your little sister who's 4 years old, who's trying to get into the school, she'll never get into the school. You destroyed the family. We're finished. We're going up in smoke because you got a 50. And all that money, I was going to buy a dress. This poor kid doesn't have, like, it's already, you got a 50, you feel bad, you have this low self-esteem, then your mother, right, takes you and just squashes you, or your father, and just like, oh, you have low self-esteem? Well, let me tell you something, kid. I was going to buy a dress last week. You know why I didn't buy it? Because I needed money for your tutor. And you came up with a 50? I could have had a dress. The kid's like, oh my God, my sister's not going to get married. My father's going to die tonight from a heart attack. My mother has no clothing. What have I done? And then we go to the therapist and we don't know, why is she so depressed? Why is this child depressed? Why is she trying to jump out the window? Because you told her that because of her, your husband's going to die, no shidduchim, the family's finished, Earth is going to explode, it's over. So what do you expect from that kid? That's the first vayar. Let's take a second vayar. I know my kid worked hard. I know she tried. I know she stayed up. And she failed anyway. Shefala, you got 50 points on the test right. How'd you do it? Let's sit down. Let's take a look at the questions. Let's see what you got right. So first of all, the kid's going to think his mother's on drugs. What'd she do? She went to her Wallerstein speech? Like, what mother talks like that? What father talks like that? Could you imagine coming home with a 50 and your mother's like, oh my God, you got 50 right! Ma! You come home with an 80, she's not having you. An 80? Your sister always got a 95 and plus. She used to get 105. Your sister. It's the big word. Poor kid grows up with that word in her ear. Your sister. And then we don't understand why she hates that sister. Don't understand. My two daughters, they don't get along. Rabbi Wallerstein, why? Well, how's the older one doing? 100 student. Perfect midos. Perfect tznias. And how's the other one doing? That the reason you came here? Struggling. I'm like, Ever compare the two? All the time. Why can't she be like her sister? So easy. I had no problems with her. Do you tell that to your daughter? All the time. Nice. Put away 10 grand for therapy this year. She's going to need it. So the second vayar is Shefali, you got 50 right. Let's take a look. Question number 7 you got right. Let's take a look at question number 7. Oh my gosh, question number 7. I have news for you. When I was in your class, I wouldn't have gotten that right. Really, Ma? I have to be honest. I don't know. That's a very hard question you got right. But 7 was much harder than 5. So what happened to number 5? And the kid's looking at like, I'll tell you the truth, I wasn't really concentrating, Ma. Okay, so you know you can do it because you got 7 right. And 7 is a much harder question. It's a 3-part question. If you got 7 right, you could have gotten 5 right. This kid's like, wow. Guess what? I guarantee you, next test, 55. 60. Next test, 65. Next test, 70. Is she ever going to get a 90? Who cares? As long as she does her best. Who cares? What you going to do with that 90 when you grow up? Can you go to the bank with it? Can't. Can you find a better shidduch? Sure. Guys are always asking, I want to see her 12th grade report card. How'd you do in 11th grade? No, that is not what they're asking. Is she skinny? Is she 5'5"? They don't care about your report card. Get real. Oh, she got a 90 average. I don't want to go out with her. But she's really gorgeous and she's from a very rich family. Oh, I really want to go out with her. Who cares about the 80? That doesn't mean anything. Get real. Ma, get real. As long as she's trying her hardest, that in life is what's important. That her whole life, she'll try her hardest to be the best wife. She'll try her hardest to be the best mother. She'll try her hardest to be the best daughter of God. That's what counts. So everyone who's watching this year is like, yeah, he was probably stupid in school. He's always defending the stupid and ragging on the 100 students. Wrong. Was not stupid in school. I was very stupid in school. Not true either. 100 on my biology region. All right. The guy next to me also got 100. Okay, so we were both very smart. The question was, who was smart first? That's all. He should be a man. Hashem should give him a lot of Gan Eden. Thank you, David. You're the man. Just a joke. Just a joke for all you who are watching. Don't you dare cheat on a test and get caught. Don't you dare cheat on a test. Chas v'shalom. Anyway, so the second Vayar, on a serious note, on the second Vayar is what makes us special. The first Vayar, every human being has the first Vayar. It's the second Vayar that counts. I told you that story of that girl who I wish I had a son because I would have read that shidduch on the spot. I just did a Pidyon HaBen tonight. I'm a dangerous guy to give a Pidyon HaBen to because I only have girls. And the Kohen, I'm a Kohen, and I did the Pidyon HaBen. And the Kohen asked the father, what would you rather have, the baby or the 5 silver coins? That's what we ask always. And he says, because his wife's standing right there, I'd rather have the baby. But once in a while, that kid is so colicky, they're like, hope the Kohen keeps him, you know? Hope he doesn't give him back. And I'm like, I'm the most dangerous guy because I don't have any sons. I'll keep him, you know? No other Kohen's going to keep him. I don't know if he's colicky, I don't know. But so I asked tonight, I said when I spoke there, I said, why do we ask that to the father? Of course, this is his first child, his beautiful little boy. Of course he's going to say, I want the baby, I don't want the 5 slong. So why are you asking him a silly question like that? You make a whole party here. All these people are here. No, you keep the baby. I want the $5. Come on. Right? So why are you asking him that? And the answer is that we want him to say in front of everybody that the baby is more important to me than the money. So it's not the car and the money and the house, but my child is the most important thing to me. And we want him to say that because it's the first child. And if you deal with the first child correctly, the rest of them usually fall in line. The problem is that the first child, anyone here who's the firstborn knows exactly what I'm talking about. You are firstborn, you are the lab rat. Us parents, we experiment. All the experiments and all the books that we tried, we do that on the first kid. One book, Dr. Spock says, be strict. So we start off being strict. That doesn't work. The other one says, give them everything they want. The poor kid is so shoo-shoo by the time he's 9 years old. But we get it right. We figure out that. So by the second kid, we know what doesn't work. We know that most of the stuff doesn't work. And the second kid, for some reason, is brought up. Everything's quiet. Right? As long as they're not like the middle child syndrome. I was the second kid. My brother. Did they experiment on him? And look what happened after that. See? So the first kid's like really hard. It's really, really tough. So if that kid is in line, so we want the father to say in front of everyone, my child is the most important thing to me, not my money. Because the father has a Zecharia to be busy and to be working and to be busy and to be working. So we want him to announce in front of everyone that my child, even though we know that he wants the child, that he has to say, my child is more important than anything else. That's a second look. And I think that the reason that most of us, including myself, don't have that second look, and many times we judge people so wrong, because we don't have time. Second look takes time. First look, diagnosis, kid at risk, bye. How many kids are diagnosed today with ADD or ADHD? Kid jumps out of his seat, ADHD, Ritalin, Concerta, zombie. Let's give him enough stuff that he comes into class and he cannot jump. Even if his brain says jump, his body says can't move. Right? So now everyone's going to get on me. Oh, at Wallerstein, you're making fun of the whole thing. People have ADHD. People have ADD. Why are you making fun of it? You know how many kids now are going to be people are listening to you, and they're going to stop giving their medicine. And I'm like, no, there's such a thing as ADHD, and there's such a thing as ADD. You're looking at someone who has it. I am very ADD, if you haven't picked up on that yet. And right now I have a broken leg, so I can't really jump around. But there's no question that I'm ADD. In fact, I went with a student to a therapist because she wouldn't go to the therapist and unless I was there. And I sat with her in the therapist's office for an hour. And for some reason, this woman was looking at my legs the whole time. And I'm thinking, huh? I mean, why are you looking at my legs? You're a therapist. And I'm like, I'm not exactly a model for legs. So like, why is this woman looking at me, my leg? And she keeps looking, she keeps looking. She's talking to this girl, she's looking. At the end of the session, she says, Rabbi Wallerstein, I have to tell you something. I said, yeah. She says, I am diagnosing you with ADHD. This happened 2 years ago, girls. I'm like, okay. Where's this diagnosis coming from? She says, I want you to know for the whole hour that you sat in this office, you were shaking your leg. I was. I shake my leg. My mother shakes her leg, right? We sit my leg up and down. She says, that is symptom number 1 for ADHD. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. So she was watching me the whole time and diagnosing me while she's talking to this other kid. I'm like, and what do you call it if both legs are shaking? If it's not one leg, but it's both legs. She said, Rabbi Wallerstein, I said, so Manashtana, at the end of the day, so what should I do? She says, nothing. You just have to know that you grew up as a child, that you had this, but in those days they weren't able to diagnose. I said, Baruch Hashem, they would have put me on a lot of stuff, and I don't know what would have happened. So I went to California, and there's this little boy, and he might be watching. Cutest little guy in the world. And not religious people. And I was in LA, and I was talking, anyway, so this religious woman who came to me to talk, she said, I have this friend, she has this little boy, and they're about to put him on medicine. They're about to put him on medicine for ADHD. You're in chinuch a long time. Could you meet him? I said, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist. I cannot say yay, nay, but I do know there's one test to really know very fast. It's like a litmus test to know right away if the kid has ADD. And that is, because I do have ADD. The problem with people who have ADD is that as long as you talk to us about a subject, we can focus on that subject the whole time. We can watch a movie for 8 hours. We can listen to a story for 9 hours. That's why parents are very like, what do you mean he has ADD? He watched the movie, he didn't move, right? ADD is that we can't change channels. When you change a channel in our brain, we don't change the channel. We sort of get lost. We can't focus, change the channel, and refocus. So we're focused, and we can stay focused. But the minute you start talking about something else, we start to dream. And the medicine supposedly makes a bridge to chemically bring you back to the subject that changed. So when I sort of test kids for ADD, what I do is I talk about one thing, then I change channels to another thing, then I change channels to another thing, then I change channels to another thing, and at the end of changing all those channels, talking about 4 different subjects, I say, now tell me the first question I asked you. Now a person with ADD can't go back to that first question. They're totally lost. So if they're able to tell me the first question you asked me was so-and-so, what's my name, or whatever it is, then I know this is not a severe ADD case, for sure not. So I come to this kid's house. And they're ready to put him on. And this woman was one of these natural medicine, was fighting with her husband because her husband said, you're hurting the kid, he needs the medicine, he's not concentrating in class. And she's like, no, we're going to do herbal this, we're going to do herbal that, we're going to do all kinds of this stuff. And he's like, I don't believe in any of this stuff. And it's homeopathic against medicine. And there's this big machlokes between husband and wife. And Wallerstein has to go figure out, who has no training in this at all, if this kid's ADD. So this is the kid that I walked up to his house, this little cute boy with bangs. I think he's 7 years old. And I said to him, how are you? He goes, hi, Rabbi. I said, so, where's God? Pretty funny question to ask an irreligious kid, right? Standing outside in his shorts in Beverly Hills. Nice house. And he says, God is right here. I'm like, wow. Where did you hear that? He goes, I never heard it. I said, but every kid knows God's up there. Any kid you ask where's God, They point up. Why are you saying God is over here in your heart? He says, nobody ever told it to me. I just know it. I'm like, you are my boy. We are going to go places. We go into the house, and I sit down with him. And he's jumpy. I'm not going to tell you he's not jumpy. And I start talking to him this subject very carefully. And I ask him this, that, and the other thing. And I change the subject. Then we play basketball. Then we read a book together. I got this guy going in every different channel that you could imagine. And then before I leave, we'll call him Justin. That's not his name. Before I leave, I sit down and I say, Justin, when I came to your house, what was the first question I asked you? And he looks at me and goes, you know. Of course I know. Do you know? He says, yes. I said, what was it? He said, where's God? I said to his parents, this little boy doesn't have ADD. I played ball. I read a book. I talked about 100 different subjects. He went back. Not only that, I asked him something else that I asked him during the basketball game while he was playing ball, so he wasn't able to concentrate. I asked him another question. I said, do you remember, Justin, we were playing ball. I asked you a question while we were playing. Do you remember that question? Boom! Shot it out. I'm like, man, this kid's better than I was. That's for sure. Baruch Hashem. Maybe it was irresponsible of me. I said, don't give him medicine. Let's just give it a little bit of time. And he went to school. It's now already a year that we know each other, maybe a little bit longer. He's doing beautiful. He's not on any medication. And I'm not telling you that's the test for every kid, whatever it is. Second look. Don't jump. Because the kid jumped out of his chair. Don't pop a pill in his mouth. Look into it a little bit more. Take it slow. Give him some time. Don't right away medicate him. There's a lot of people that are medicated correctly. There's a lot of people that are medicated not correctly. And I know that I'm going to get 1 million emails from 1 million therapists. You're a speaker, and now people are going to take your kids off medicine, and you're going to be responsible. And I'm like, no, I'm not telling you to take your kid off medicine, but I'm telling you get a second opinion and a third opinion, and give them time, and look at them, and work with them before you just jump to a conclusion. And that was what happened in Megillas Rus. Boaz had the strength and the ability to take the second look. While Yaratz L'Krosam, you can be friendly, you can have a relationship with anyone if you take the second look. That the girl there's a woman that stands outside of Chapanash. Every Friday, a little blonde woman. And I like her very much because she always says, you look so good. But in Sphira, she doesn't say that. But you look so good, Rabbi. Well, now she got all upset last week. I came in crutches. Oh my God. She went crazy. Why? How could this happen? I'm like, relax. Everything's good. So I feel really good about myself. Every time she stands there, she has a cup, and I put $1 in the cup. Nice guy, because other people put quarters in. I put $1 in. Yeah. Feel good about myself. Till one day, in the middle of the winter, she's sitting outside, freezing. She puts out her cup. I put my $1 in it. Running from across the street is this young girl, maybe 16, 17, from Jerusalem Pizza, which is right across from Chapanash. And she's running with a hot coffee, and a Danish. And she walks over to this woman, who I put the $1 in, and she gives her the Danish and the hot coffee. And I'm thinking to myself, Wallerstein, you're a behemoth. Translated to English, an animal. This woman is sitting in the ice cold, and you're putting $1 in a cup. Do you ever think she'd bring her a hot coffee? But I only had one vayar. I took one look. What did I see, girls?
A beggar.
A cup. I didn't take the second look and see that the cup is connected to a hand, and the hand is connected to a person, and that person has feelings, and that person is freezing. No, I didn't see that. I saw a cup. And a cup doesn't need a Danish and a hot coffee. This girl, whoever she was able to take a second look and said, there's a cup, but there's a person connected to that cup. And I got to take care of that person. That's how David HaMelech came into this world. Because if Boaz didn't have the ability to have a second look, there would have been no David HaMelech. And we need to understand that there's a person connected to that pain, and there's a person connected to that hand, and there's a person connected to the piercings that that girl has in her face, and in her ear, and in her nose. And there's a person connected, chas v'shalom, to the tattoo that she has. And there's a person connected to the cigarette that's in her mouth. And the drugs that she does. There's a human being in there. There's a heart in there. The chidibarti alev. Boaz, you spoke to my heart. You saw way past the Moaviyah. You saw that there's a person inside. And that was the grandmother of Yishai, the great-grandmother of David HaMelech, the great-great-grandmother of Shlomo HaMelech. And Boaz was able to see through the Moaviyah to see there's a queen. You know what she was called? You know what Russ's other name in Kabbalah and in the Navi is called? She's called Aim HaMalchus. She is the mother of the kingdom. And it says by Shlomo HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech woke up late the day that they built it, that they were opening the Beis HaMikdash. It says in the Navi that the Aim HaMelech came in and tied him to a pole and took a whip and whacked him. Shlomo HaMelech, his mother. And she said, this is what I brought you up for? To sleep late on the morning of the opening of the Beis HaMikdash? Shame on you! It's in the Navi. Shlomo HaMelech said, thank you. Thank you for the criticism. Says the Mefarshim, who was the Aim HaMelech? Bathsheba, his mother? No. Rus lived so long that she had Oved, who had Yishai, who had David, who had Shlomo. Rus was still living. She was called the Aim HaMalchus, and she said, I was a Moaviyah. I suffered to come into the Jewish nation, and you slept late on the morning of the opening of the Beis HaMikdash. You're going to chapetch. And he chapetch. And he wasn't a kid at risk, and he didn't say, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to call the cops, and this is abuse. He said, thank you. Look in the Navi. He said, thank you. I deserved it. So who became the Aim HaMalchus of the whole Jewish nation? Rus HaMoaviyah, because one old rabbi saw past the Chitzanius. They were going to take the great-grandmother of David HaMelech and throw her over the fence. So Boaz had to tell the boys, don't touch her. And the Mefarshim say, touch her. There were so many gear. They were from boys working for him. Why would they touch her? So the Medrash says, because they said to her, you're a chutzpah, you're a goy, you're taking away the leket, the food of the poor Jewish woman. We're going to throw you over the fence. So Boaz told her, I promise you, it's in the pasuk, they won't touch you. So we're going to take David HaMelech's great-grandmother, throw her over the fence. That would have been nice. Because they only had one look. They didn't have a second look. So I want to finish with a short story, which is a wonderful story to take home. It's short, it's 2 minutes. So this newlywed couple, and it was funny today, I said it on the radio, the story, and I said it must have been a newlywed couple because the story opens up that they're eating breakfast together. So this guy on the radio, I guess he didn't like that, and he called him, he says, hi, Rabbi Wallerstein, I just heard your speech on the radio. I totally disagree with you. I'm thinking some of my hashkafa, I don't know what he's disagreeing. He says, I'm married 20 years, and every morning I have breakfast with my wife. I'm like, wow, it's really nice. By the way, who makes the breakfast, you or her? So he goes, just trust me, it's a good breakfast. He didn't answer the question. So anyway, so this chassan and kala are sitting there. They just got married, and they're looking out of their window. Now, in the old days, which most of you girls in here don't know about, it's about, all of us our age, we know about this, about 40 years BC, before cell phones, calculators and computers. We lived a long time ago, and we lived in caves. It was very different. So, us cave people, we had washing machines, but we didn't have dryers. Because, number one, they were very expensive. Number two, they used gas. So we didn't have dryers. So people actually used to do this, believe it or not. They used to wash their laundry in the washing machine. Then they would have a clothesline. And they would take their laundry after it was clean, and they would hang it up with these clothespins, right? And it would dry. Now, yeah, out of this country, they don't even know what I'm talking about over here, right? And it was very cute because they had these two little white wheels at the ends, so you used to schlep in your laundry, right? It was like really cool. So us kids, we liked it, it was a lot of fun. We tied guys on it, and then we just schlep them back and schlep them forward or whatever. So I remember my grandmother, she lived in Washington Heights. They didn't get much sunlight in those apartment buildings, so she had this thing on the inside of the house. It's like this thing you fold, it has these white things, and you put them over, and then everything drips. It's really cool. Anyway, so they're sitting there, and this young Kala, the first morning, she's looking out her window, and the neighbor is hanging out her laundry. And it's all dirty. There's a saying, right? Don't hang out your dirty laundry in front of everyone, right? Something like that. It's an expression. Don't take your bad stuff and let everyone know about it. But anyway, so she says to her husband, ugh, look at this lady. She doesn't know how to do a wash. Her clothing's all dirty. Why would someone hang up their dirty laundry? He's very quiet. He doesn't say a word. Next morning, again, she puts out the laundry. Again, it's filthy. So she turns and says, what's up with her? Maybe we need to buy her detergent. She's using the wrong detergent. Her clothing is filthy. Why do we have to look at this every day? This goes on for 30 days. So they actually ate breakfast together for the first 30 days. The Shana Rishona thing. Anyway, so one morning, they sit down at the table, and she turns to her husband, she says, oh, Baruch Hashem, finally, look at her laundry. It's clean. I wonder who taught her, finally, how to do laundry. And he turns to his wife, he says, who taught her how to do laundry? Nobody taught her how to do laundry. I got up early this morning, and I cleaned our windows. Ooh. Ooh, what a story. Ooh. One of the best stories I've ever heard in my life. Her laundry was sparkling every single day, Mrs. Your windows were dirty! Not her laundry. We need to think about when we look at another person in a negative way, and we judge them in a negative way, maybe it's our windows that are dirty. The bad you see in others is the bad you see in yourself. A person who's always happy and satisfied with themselves and has good self-esteem, they don't see anything bad in other people. But when you yourself are not happy and your windows are dirty, no matter how good the other person is, they don't look good to you. And that's what this story is telling us. She looked once, and the laundry looked dirty. But had she looked twice, had she looked at her own windows, she would have realized that it wasn't the laundry that was dirty, but it was her windows. Hashem should give us all the koyach to have the health and the time and the intelligence to be able to have that second look with each other, husbands and wives, parents and children, children and parents. Not to judge your parents at a first look. Students and teachers, teachers and students. That second look is the difference between a knee operation, between going under the knife and nothing getting better, and just leaving it alone for 3 weeks, and Emet Hashem getting better. That's the difference between a first look and a second look. May Hashem give us all the insight, get it? To have the second look. Hatzlacha.